If you struggle with worry, anxiety, the thinking brain that just never stops, you found this video for a reason. Worrying is exhausting. It's like a bunch of apps running in the background of your cell phone, constantly draining its battery life. But what you need to be aware of is that it can actually lead to bigger and badder things if you're not careful. Don't go anywhere, because at the end, I've got a really powerful tool to offer to you that will help with all of it, along with this video. Welcome to the Sober Web, my friend. I'm Clark, a recovered alcoholic who battled alcoholism for 13 years. I struggled with worry and anxiety so much. It actually didn't have to do with my alcohol use. It had more to do with a fear-based mentality that manifested in how I used alcohol and how I dealt with life. To get the conversation started though, in the comments, let me know one thing that you worry about more than anything, or what causes you anxiety. In my case, I used to worry about everything. I worried about my body, how I looked, how people perceived me. I worried about my job, making money, lack of career, lack of passion in my life. I mean, the list could literally go on and on, but there were more insidious fears and worries that I had to battle around. Fear of disappointing people, fear of being a failure, and the really big one came to do with being a parent, and ultimately being a failure as a parent and letting my son down. So in 2017, I got sober, which eventually led to me becoming a co-parent and only having 50% of my son's time. I only had half of every single week, and there was half of his life that I had no say or control in, and that was a constant source of worry and fear. And that was a really pivotal time in my life because I had to learn how to let go of control, or how to control my worry, and I had pretty much two choices. I could either spend my life and my every single day of existence as a worrisome parent and person, or I could find a way to control my worry and to tune out my anxiety once and for all. But before I could do that, I had to figure out what my worry was all about. And it's something that I want you to think about, which is why I asked you to leave one thing that you worry about in the comments, because I want you to think about what fear does that represent? Because at its core, at the root of it, worry and anxiety are physical and mental manifestations of a deeper rooted fear. We could be afraid of being sick, afraid of dying too young, afraid of our children not turning out well, or afraid of not giving our children a great life, fear of not being loved, fear of being alone, fear of never having peace and harmony with our friends and our family, fear of what people think of us. I mean, there's literally a giant list of fears that can go on and on and on. They can be rational or irrational because for whatever reason, you have them, and that's okay. They are valid to you and your story. And those fears are there for a reason, but they're not dealt with, so they manifest with worry and anxiety. So going back to the original question, what's one thing that you worry about? Now in the comments, let me know, what fear does that worry represent? But you know what worry is more than anything? It's a form of control. Because we live in this world where we don't actually have a lot of control over so many things in life. And give me a thumbs up if you know what I'm talking about. But the one thing that we can control, or we hopefully want to control, are our thoughts. How we receive the world, how we perceive the world, what we let impact us, what we let dictate our life. And so when we feel out of control, perhaps we feel some sense of control in the fact that we can perseverate or worry about something that literally is beyond our control. And that's okay. We all do it. Obviously, we want to have control of our thoughts, and thoughts can be good and bad. But the ones that run rampant are the ones that ultimately lead us to being anxious and stressed out and even a bit obsessed. But what do you think? Are you in control of your thoughts? Do you feel like you have control of that thinking brain? Or does it run amok? Do you feel like your thoughts and your worry control your life? Give me a thumbs up either way, because awareness is key and it's a step in the right direction. Another thing to consider is that worry is also an avoidance tactic. Whether consciously or subconsciously, we use worry as a way to avoid making a decision. And again, we go back to fear. There could be so many fears in the inability to make a decision, or the fear of making a decision, or the fear of a decision being wrong. So instead of just making a choice and committing to a certain course of action, we perseverate and we worry about all the supposed outcomes that could happen. And we future trip so much, and we let our worrying brain get us so worked up that we just never make a decision because we just don't want to. Maybe we don't trust that we can make the right decision, but no matter what, we worry, and then we get anxious and we get stressed out, and we become obsessed with all the good and bad things that could happen for every single decision that there is to make. And it's crazy making, and I feel crazy even talking about it. And this is exactly why worry can be a form of addiction. Because if we cannot control our thoughts, if we are obsessive in our thoughts, that is a form of addiction. If worrying allows us to escape reality so we don't have to deal with reality, that is an addiction in one way or another. And even if you don't want to admit that maybe worrying is an addiction, it can lead to bigger and badder addictions. For me, it was alcohol. I couldn't stand my thinking brain anymore. I couldn't stand the stress, the anxiety, the fear, so I used alcohol on a regular basis at a young age until it became a habit so that I could turn my brain off. And then eventually, thankfully, in 2016 and 2017, I realized that's not how I wanted to live my life anymore. I was tired of alcohol having control over me, the worry having control over me, the fear, the anxiety. I was so sick and tired of that way of living that I knew something had to change, which is why I quit alcohol, which eventually led me to understanding my worry and understanding my fear so I could stop being an anxious, worrisome person. And give me a thumbs up if this resonates with you, if you kind of maybe can see something in your life that you're using as a coping mechanism for your worry. You don't even have to put the word addiction to it. It could just be a way of coping to help deal with the worry, the stress, and the anxiety that maybe is taking control of your life. But there is hope, my friend. There is a way to deal with it. Awareness is key. Just knowing the fears that are represented by your worry is a step in the right direction. And honestly, a great way to maybe get to know those fears is just write down all of your worries and write down the subsequent fears. At least by putting a name to the fears, you can see them, and by seeing them, maybe you can then find a way of dealing with them. And a great way for all of us to deal with our feelings and our thoughts and our emotions is therapy. We all deserve a safe space to express ourselves and the thoughts and emotions that we never speak out loud. But a big part of the thinking mind and worrying all the time is that we have a lot to say, and maybe we have lots of things that we want to be validated, but we have no one to validate that in our life. So at least with a therapist, you have someone that can be a sounding board for you, that can listen to you, that can help you flush out what's going on deeper inside, other than the surface level stuff that the worries represent. Other ways of dealing with worrisome thoughts and anxiety and stress. There's always journaling. I always like a good brain dump at the end of the day, 15 to 20 minutes before bedtime. Write every single thought that you are having. Don't judge it, just write. Don't think about it. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to have grammar. Just write everything out and get it all out of your head. And then, of course, another amazing way to deal with worry and stress and anxiety is to physically release it. And there's so many different ways of doing that. Meditation, yoga, martial arts, working out at the gym, CrossFit. Cold therapy is a really popular one these days. You can't think about anything else when you are submerged in cold. And that's half the battle of beating worry and stress and anxiety, is learning how to be present to the moment. And last, but certainly not least, is the powerful tool that I promised you at the very beginning of this video if you were to watch this entire video, which here we are. And thank you so much for sticking with me. You've got to get this book, The Tools by Phil Stutz and Barry Michaels. Can you see that? Write it down. If you're not into reading, there is always, of course, the audiobook version. If you're not into books for whatever reason, there is the film Stutz, S-T-U-T-Z, by Jonah Hill, that is about Phil Stutz, the guy that created these tools, and it's amazing to watch, so I highly recommend you check it out. Because what that book contains, what that movie talks about, are amazing tools to not only deal with worry and stress and anxiety, but will ultimately help you progress as a human, and to probably get past some hurdles and walls that have been holding you back so far in your life. So again, The Tools by Phil Stutz and Barry Michaels. You are doing yourself a disservice, my friend, if you don't check them out. Now, if you are concerned that you're using alcohol in a negative way to deal with your worry, your stress, and your anxiety, I hope that you'll watch this video right here, because it'll give you 10 reasons why you should quit alcohol starting today, and it's pure gold, my friend. But before you do that, I hope that you'll share this video to support someone's mental health, and I really hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel so I can support yours in turn.